California is turning into a slave state. And if you think that's a little bit too harsh, then why does the state of California force your child to attend their schools, and now they're going to force them to have the COVID vaccine? Let alone the measles, mumps, rubella, all that stuff from a few years ago, which they passed, despite thousands of parents going to the Capitol in Sacramento and trying to protest and express their concern, and doctors and nurses and parents and fathers, mothers, grandparents. Thousands of people tried to stop this. And so now they're going to put the COVID measures into place, and now your child can get a vaccine without your consent under age 12 or at age 12. It's slavery, my friends. And so the question is, how do you get rid of slavery? If we can all agree that mandating attendance in a building and mandating experimental drugs and risky drugs be injected into your child's arms, legs, hearts, and brains, that would be called slavery. I don't know what else you call it. When you force people to do something against their will that can harm them and they face no responsibility for it. The 1986 Vaccine Injury Act allowed it. So what's the solution? We got one. It's a beautiful one. Stop believing in the legitimacy of government authority and start practicing your personal authority over your life, over your property, over your labor, over your children. You can see that the hyper-wealthy predator psychopaths are playing for the whole game. They're playing for all the marbles right now. And as you know, we're always one generation away from slavery or from tyranny. But it's called incrementalism, boiling the frog. So your parents might not have felt it as much, or our parents, and then our grandparents might not have felt it as much. But day by day, year by year, decade by decade, we are under serious tyranny. And now, slavery. Now, slavery first has to start in the mind. Remember, that's why they had to demoralize slaves first. But the future is independent food, independent water, independent power, independent communities, independent schools, independent hospitals, clinics, grocery stores. It's called the exit and build strategy. Really powerful strategy that John Bush and Derek Rose are promoting, and I think have been for a while, because ultimately when you become awake to what's going on and you realize that government is just a coercive monopoly of violence, corporation on violence, even Elon Musk knows that. So my question for Elon Musk is, aren't you looking for solutions, or do you just like only getting those huge government contracts? That's what you're interested in. So what they want to do is bring back the class system so that there's uber wealthy people and uber poor people. They want to get rid of the middle class, because the middle class people, then you have a voice and you have some capital and you could actually do some projects. But if the people are completely destitute, broke, then it's just about eating, just survival. And the solution is exit and build. I have not found anything other than this philosophy, which is empowering the individual. And so these bills are really terrible, I agree. And a lot of patriots out there realize what's going on. Although many of them say, call your representative, call your senator, your congressman, these people. We tried that. SB 277, SB 276. And sometimes there is enough people calling that maybe it slows it down. But my friends, politicians are people who they use the ring of power, just like in the movie The Lord of the Rings. And there's well-intended people who get into politics, but then you have to scratch each other's backs. Hey, you vote for my bill, I'll vote for your bill. Fair enough, right? This is the game that they play. So how about this? How about we just interact with each other on a voluntary, consensual basis? And I don't need a representative. I will present myself, and you present yourself, and we will be bound to contracts which we voluntarily agree to and have full disclosure of the terms for. Sounds good enough for me. How about you? Can we agree that you're not going to force me to do anything and not going to use fraud against me? And in exchange, I promise not to force you to do anything, and I'm not going to use fraud against you or intimidation or initiation of violence against you or your property. Is that a fair agreement? I think it is. And so this is the idea of voluntarism. It really is the next evolution of human consciousness, of freedom. Back in the days, there was the king. And then we realized that's not good that the king has all the power. And then they evolved to a constitutional republic. So yeah, this piece of paper called the Bill of Rights is going to put chains on the government. And then that didn't work out. That's where we are now. And now we're evolving. Just like the communication systems have evolved. We don't use the Pony Express anymore. We use text message or email, instant. So if you're willing to evolve, which I believe you are, then I invite you to consider the idea of voluntarism, which means that anybody who uses coercion doesn't have actual authority over you. They have violence over you, they have psychological intimidation over you, but true authority comes from you. And that's even in the Declaration of Independence. The just powers of government come from the consent of the governed. But if you didn't consent, not in consent, then where do they have the power? Where do they have the just powers? Righteous powers. They don't have any. It's all violence and intimidation, extortion, racketeering. So I was raised in a small town. I love Americana. I love everything that the flag is told to represent. But they're using it against us. They're using it as a tool of manipulation. So when we see the flag, we're trained, yeah, liberty and justice for all. But in fact, they use that to generate and recruit soldiers to go fight in their wars. They use it to terrorize other nations. It's basically a brand. All these different countries, they have their flag as their brand, like their logo. And so if you have the most extortion going on, then you have all this money. And by the way, the Federal Reserve banking system has empowered the government to have all this money to go fund their wars and allow these military contractors to make hundreds of billions of dollars at the expense of innocent men, women, and children in other countries. Afghanistan, Iraq, Kuwait, Vietnam, and a slew of other nations that have been slaughtered by the military machine. Look up Smedley Butler, General Smedley Butler, top general who called out the war is a racket. So now they use psychological warfare, they use the needles, they use peer pressure, ostracization. Oh, in order to go to school, you have to have this injection. In order to come to the restaurant, you have to have this injection. In order to go flying on the train, on a bus, you have to have this injection. I'm sorry, I don't make the laws, I just enforce them. So we're going to say, all right, we're going to start our own airlines. And people are doing that now. People start their own Ubers, their own restaurants, their own hospitals and clinics, their own schools. People are doing that right now. And I'll do some more videos and share some of the resources and the champions. The true heroes, the true celebrities are promoting freedom and voluntary relationships and consent and win-win relationships. And truth and honesty and sincerity towards empowering the children and the next generation and the next generation. 7 generations from now, 10 generations from now. So, if you want some solutions to these bills, I invite you to consider exit and build the world you want to see and stop believing that these politicians and these organizations. They're just groups of people. That's all they are. They have any authority over you. So you want to have this conversation, and it's a deprogramming, a deconditioning, an unbrainwashing of what we've been taught and trained for most of our lives. So there is a solution for the bills. It's called call out the illegitimacy of their authority, exit and build, create, collaborate with other peaceful, moral men and women. And we have to actually build, create, generate the city that we want to live in, the neighborhood that we want to live in, the county, the state, the world. We have to build it, my friends, and we are building it through our words, our actions, our relationships, our technologies, our projects, our books, our courses, our videos, our songs. Let's create a bunch of freedom art this year, this summer, and let's make 2022 the year or the summer of self-ownership, where this idea goes viral and people stop hallucinating that government has authority over you. Call it out. I dare you. Peace and love to you. Thanks for joining me on the Freedom Lovers Show. We are building a voluntary world, one relationship at a time.